Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new here, this is Reggie School of Fashion. In the last video of this tutorial series, I showed you how to draft, cut and construct a front pocket which can be attached to either a senator wear or shirt for male and female. The link to the video will be available in the description box, plus other 3 videos of this same series, which are how to take measurement for shirt, how to draft shirt pattern, and how to cut and sew a shirt yoke. So in today's video, I will be showing you how to draft, cut and attach a placket which can be applied on either a senator wear or shirt for both male and female. So guys, if you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so now so that you will be getting a regular notification from me whenever I upload a new video. Without wasting much of time, let's get started. My name is Bolaji and this is Reggie School of Fashion. In drafting a shirt placket, I will start by drawing a borderline at the edge of the pattern paper. The 2 basic measurements needed in drafting a placket are the length and the width of the placket. In drafting a placket, we'll be having 2 pieces, the smaller placket and the bigger placket. So for the length of the placket, the standard measurement is 7 inches. So from the borderline, I will measure 7 inches downward. So this is the center of my pattern. So this is the 7 inches point, and I will add extra 5 inches to this. So the length I have in total is 12 inches. No. This is the starting point. Measurement taken from the starting point to this point is 7 inches. This 7 inches is standard, and no matter how big the head of human being is, this 7 inches is enough to accommodate the head of human being. So after this 7 inches point, I measure 5 inches downward. This is to style up the placket. You can make yours longer or shorter. So this 5 inches is not standard, it's not constant. You can subtract from the 5 inches and you can add to it. It all depends on your preference. That is for the length of the placket, and for the width of the placket, that is the wideness of the placket. We are talking about the bigger parts of the placket. Don't forget I said the placket will be in 2 pieces. We have the smaller one and we have the bigger one. This I'm drafting is for the bigger one. Now for the width of the placket, the minimum you can use is 1 inch. That is the minimum for the bigger side of the placket, and you can use more than 1 inch. It depends on how wide you want the placket to be, and also the design you want to have on your placket, if it is plain or decorated placket. So this will determine how wide your placket will be, but the least you can go is 1 inch. You can use 1.5 inches and you can use 2 inches, but for the sake of this tutorial I will be making use of 1.5 inches. So from the center of the pattern, which is this side, I will measure 1.5 inches forward. So please take note of this. Whatever value you are using for the wideness of your placket will be multiplied by 2, because it's going to be on fold. Even after attaching the placket will be on fold. So if you are using 1 inch, the measurement you will measure will be 2 inches. That is 1 in 2 places. If you want the wideness of your placket to be 1.5, the measurement you will be using is 3 inches. If you want the wideness of your placket to be 2 inches, that will be 2 multiplied by 2, which is 4. But because this is pattern drafting, I have my center already, and it will be on fold when I'm cutting out the fabric. So that is why I measured 1.5 inches. So this is the wideness of my placket, 1.5 inches, and I will come to the length of the placket and insert the same 1.5 inches. And I will make it a straight line. So the next step is to add allowance to the pattern. So I'm adding allowance of seam allowance of 0.5 inches. So this is for the bigger part of the placket, and I will construct the smaller part by the side. This is the line I will be using for the smaller part of the placket, and I will label it as center. So which means my measurement will go along this line. So firstly, I will measure the length of the smaller placket. The length of the smaller placket will be different from the bigger placket. So what they both share in common is 7 inches. The 7 inches is constant for the smaller and the bigger placket. So which means this 7 inches is still constant. So from this 7 inches point, I will add extra 1.5 is okay, 1 inch 2 is okay, but just to be on the safer side, in case the fabric is fraying, you can add 1.5, you can add 2 inches, but what I'll be needing is not more than 1 inch, so I will just add extra 1.5 inches to that. This is the length of my smaller placket, and for the width of the smaller placket is 0.5 inches. 0.5 is okay for the smaller parts, and don't forget this will be in 2 places. So 0.5, you will have 1 inch, that is 0.5 inches in 2 places. And in case you have issue in reading your measuring tape, I have video on how to read your measuring tape accurately, how to read the small lines on your measuring tape, how to convert your fraction value to decimal and decimal value to fraction. The link to the video will be available in the description box. So from the center of my pattern, I will measure 0.5 inches, and I will add extra 0.5 inches to this. So this 0.5 inches is the same allowance. So by the time I cut out my fabric, I will have 2 inches on my fabric. So the pattern is ready, and the next step is to cut it out. So this is the leftover fabric I will be using in cutting out the placket. So I'll be cutting the smaller placket first. So as I said when I was drafting, that the fabric will be on fold. And I will place my pattern on it. Now I'm cutting the bigger placket and my fabric is on fold as well. As you can see, the center is on the folded part of the fabric. I'm done with cutting out of the fabric. This is a bigger placket and this is a smaller placket. Before removing my pattern, I will just give it a notch at the center, the upper part and the lower part. So I'll be doing the same thing on the bigger placket so that when I'm ironing, I will know where the center falls. It will be easy for me to locate the center. So the next step is the ironing. So I'll be ironing this placket according to the shape I want it. I told it to be on fold like so. So I will give it a press and I will iron an interfacing on the wrong side. These are the fusible interfacing I will be applying to my placket in order to stabilize it and also to make it thicker. So this is the soft interfacing. It is popularly called stay. So this is the soft one, not the paper one. It is the soft one. So I'll be applying this on the smaller size of the placket. So this is the smaller part of the placket and this is the wrong side of the fabric, the wrong side of the fabric facing the right side of the interfacing. This is the right side of the fusible interfacing and this is the wrong side. The right side is rough. If you place your hand on it like so, it is rough on the right side, but on the wrong side it is smooth. So the smooth side is the wrong side, the rough side is the right side. Again, the smooth side is the wrong side, the rough side is the right side. So the wrong side of the fabric facing the right side of the interfacing. So I will cut it out and apply heat to it. So this part is very important when you are constructing your placket. You must not skip this step. The ironing side is very important and you must apply a fusible interfacing to support your fabric. This is another type of fusible interfacing that can be used in constructing a placket. It has the right side and the wrong side as well. This is more quality than the other one. This is fabric and it is very hard. As you can see, it's hard. So if you cannot afford using this, you can make use of paper stay. The paper stay too has a very strong one. So but the strong one is advisable for the bigger side of the placket in order to make it stay firm. So this is the right side and this is the wrong side. Me looking at it, the right side is shiny. So the shiny side of this interfacing is the right side, while the dull side is the wrong side, as you can see. So this is the right side. And in this case, I'm not cutting the whole of the size of this placket out. I'll be cutting out half of it. So that is the size I'm using. Don't forget when we're drafting, I said the wideness of the bigger side of the placket will be 1.5 inches. So 1.5 inches is what I'll be cutting out for the fusible interfacing. This is because this is a very hard interfacing and it cannot be folded easily like the soft one. And also you will have to be mindful of your sewing machine. It may not be able to sew on the fusible interfacing conveniently. So I'll be cutting out half of this. Even though your machine can sew on it, it will not allow the placket to be very flat. So it is not advisable you cut more than the wideness of your placket. So I'll be measuring 1.5 inches. So I've cut out the fusible interfacing for the bigger part of the placket. So firstly, I will iron the bigger placket in half like so. I'll get the center ironed out. So after ironing out the center, I'll open it up, then place the placket, the fusible interfacing at the center on the wrong side. On the wrong side of the fabric, I'll place it at the center like so. And I will measure downwards my seam allowance. So I will measure 0.5 inches downward. .5 downward. Then I'll place the edge on the marked point. So the shiny side of the interfacing is where the gum is, so it will be facing the wrong side of your fabric. Can you see? Let me pin it. So let's assume I've ironed it. So the remaining parts of the placket will fall on the interfacing like so. So it will help the edge to be very sharp. So the edge will be very sharp and the shape will really come out well. Here is the result after ironing. This is the bigger placket and this is the smaller placket. What I have left here is 0.5 inches, which I said will be the wideness of the smaller placket. So this is the way I ironed. I ironed in half. I ironed 0.5 inches from the top and fold it inward like so. Then I ironed the whole placket in half into two. Then I folded in 0.5 inches. I ironed and I folded in the other side, which is the same allowance of 0.5 inches, and I fold over. So that is why I have it this way. And for the bigger placket, I iron in 0.5 inches at the upper part. This is the same allowance. This is the fusible interfacing. The wideness of the fusible interfacing is half of the placket, so which I ironed on the fabric. Then the same allowance, I iron it over the fusible interfacing, and also the remaining parts of the placket, I iron it over the fusible interfacing, and I have it like so. So this is the front panel of the shirt. This is the right side. So this is the front pocket. The front pocket is attached to the front panel of the shirt. So this is the project we did in the last video. In case you missed this video, I will advise you go back and watch. The link to the video will be available in the description box. So as you can see, I ironed out the center of the front panel. So this is the center, is very important. So this is the front panel, and I will flip it over to the wrong side. I'll flip it over to the wrong side. Then I will measure 7 inches downward. So this is the neckline, as you can see. From this point, so from this point, I will measure 0.5 inches downward first. Then from that 0.5 inches point, I will measure 7 inches. I told you 7 inches is standard for opening of the placket. It is standard and it is enough to accommodate the head. No matter how big the head of human being is, the 7 inches will accommodate it. Then from this 7 inches point, I will come up by 0.5 inches. Then I will open up this area starting from the neckline downward, and I will stop on the 0.5 inches I measured upward. Please don't forget, you will not cut all through to 7 inches point. You are stopping on this point, which is 6.5 inches. So please, before you cut out, don't be in haste. Make sure you iron out the center before you cut. Your placket must fall at the center of the shirt. So at this 6.5 inches point, I will stop. Then I will now make a V shape. This will make the placket to be easier to flip over. It is not something serious, so there's no rule that guide it. Just make sure you just have a V. That's all. From 0.5 inches this point to the 7 inches point. Then I will slash the shape out. Can you see that? It's not something serious. And that's all. So the cutting is done. So I will start with the smaller part of the placket. The smaller part of the placket will be attached to the right side of the shirt. You can see after opening we have two sides. We have the left and we have the right. So according to this panel, this is the right and this is the left. So the smaller part of the placket will be attached to the right side. So, and I will open up the folding. I'm opening up the folding I have at the upper part because this shirt will be with collar. If your shirt is not with collar, let's assume you've finished the neckline area with facing already, you don't need to open it up. So I'm opening it up because I'm still finishing the neckline area with collar. So I'll flip it over to the right side. So this is the right side of my shirt now. So the positioning goes thus. Can you see this is the right side and this is the wrong side? This is the right side of the placket and this is the wrong side. The right side of the placket facing the wrong side of the shirt. So as you can see, I've pinned the two pieces together. So this is the placket and this is the fabric, and I will stitch beside the iron side. I will not stitch exactly on this line. On the 0.5 inches I ironed out, I will stitch very close to that line, and I will stitch and stop on the 7 inches point, this notched part. So that is where I'm stopping on the wrong side. I pinned this together to assume I've stitched. After stitching, this is what it will look like. The seam allowance will come and face the placket like so. Can you see? This will fold over it and this will flip, and this will flip over. Then I will stitch on the edge as well. So guys, I've stitched the placket together with the front panel, as you can see. So don't forget, I have 0.5 inches seam allowance on the placket. This is a smaller placket, and on the fabric I measured quarter of an inch. That is half of the seam allowance I have on the placket. Again, on the placket I iron in 0.5 inches seam allowance. But when I was attaching it, I measured 0.25 on the front panel. I did not measure 0.5 so that it will not take much out of the measurement I have around the chest area. So I measured 0.25. So I placed 0.5 inches of the placket on the 0.25 inches on the shirt, and I trim off the seam allowance. I trim it down so that it will not look bulky inside the placket. Then after stitching, I also go back to my ironing table and I give it a press in order to make this area flat, and I flip this over. I'll need to cover up the seam allowance and I iron it again. So after ironing, I'll come to this edge, which I'll be pinning down in order for you to see it clearly. So this is the area I will be stitching down. So when you are stitching, make sure it is neat. This is where your finishing starts. And when you are making a male shirt or any male outfit, your finishing is very important. Very important. Your finishing must be very neat. So I'll be giving it an edge stitch all the way down, and I will make sure it's laying flat. Can you see? On the edge, I will stitch it down and stop on the 7 inches point. I will be doing that off the camera as well. So guys, I'm done fixing the smaller part of the placket, as you can see. So this is the edge stitch I applied on it, and you can see it's laying flat. So when you are doing this, make sure you don't joke with ironing. You iron step by step. So this is the bigger side, which I'll be using the same method. This is the seam allowance I ironed inward, the 0.5, and the positioning goes thus: the right side of the placket facing the wrong side of the shirt, like so. And I will open up the seam allowance I ironed inward. This is because I'll be finishing the neckline area with collar. So the video is coming as well. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't, so that you will get notification when I drop the video. So I'm pinning the two together, and I will stitch on the 0.5 inches seam allowance. So I flip over my shirt so that you can see this clearly. So this is the part I ironed out. So on this iron line, that is where I'm stitching, and I will stitch all through and stop on the 7 inches points, which is the notch point here. I've joined the placket together with the shirt, as you can see. This is the seam allowance. This is what I have on the wrong side, and this is the right side. So the next step is to fold this over on the placket. I'm folding it over, and I will make sure my seam allowance is opened. So this is where you have to take your time and arrange your placket neatly. You have to arrange it neatly. So this is the finishing part of the bigger placket. So it has to be arranged neatly. I'll flip this over. The excess I have on the smaller placket is going inside to the wrong side of the shirt. So this is going inside. It's going to the wrong side. The notch fabric will cover it up, like so. While the bigger placket will be on the smaller placket. So this is a smaller placket. The excess I have on the smaller placket, I pushed it to the wrong side of the shirt, and I have the notch fabric on it. So this is what will allow this area not to squeeze. If you don't do this, this area will be squeezed and it will not knit. So I will flip this over on it, like so. So please, after joining, make sure you iron. Make sure you iron it. You iron out all the seam allowance. It was facing like this, it was facing this direction when I was stitching. So after stitching, I position it to come to this direction, and I give it a good press, which helps it to lay flat this way. And also you can see the wrong side as well. We can see the seam line clearly, so there is no bulky fabric around this area. So it is necessary you iron after stitching. Iron it down. After flipping it over again, I will iron. I'll also give it a press, then fold in my seam allowance here, give it a press. I'm giving it a press as well. So I've ironed the placket, as you can see, is laying flat in it. So I'll give it an edge stitch along this side, making sure the edges cover up the seam I have around here. So I will be stitching on the edges now. Then at the 7 inches point here, which I notched, from that point I will come up by 0.5 inches, or let me say 0.25 is okay. I will come up by 0.25. So which means I will just stop. I will stop before I get to this point. It can be 0.5 or 0.25 or 0.375. So when I get to this point, I will stop. So when I'm moving closer to this point where I'm stopping, I will adjust my shirt and make sure the smaller placket is inside. So, and I will make sure the notch fabric also is inside. And I will make sure I adjust my shirt, is not squeezing and is not folding. So every of the seam allowance, I will make sure I push everything inside. I'm pushing it inward so that the placket is very neat. So I'm good to go now, and I will adjust this area, making sure it's not fold. And I will go slowly so that I don't go below this point. So when I get to this point, I will lift up my presser foot, then flip my shirt over like so. Can you see what I'm doing? So this area is very crucial. You have to pay a close attention to it. So whatever you do here determines the positioning of your plackets, either straight or bend or slant. So at the down part, I have my center ironed out already. This has to fall. My placket has to fall in between the center of the shirt, which I have here already, and I will secure it with pin. So I've secured the down parts with pin. As you can see, the center of the placket fall at the center of the shirt. Also, I will come to the upper part, put this inside. It has to be in between the bigger placket as well. Can you see? And I will secure the upper part with pin. I told you at this point, whatever you do determine the positioning of your placket. Can you see what I have for my placket? And I'll pin it. So I have my placket secured already. Then I'll put down my presser foot. As I'm doing this, I'm adjusting my shirt, making sure there is no folded parts, there is no squeezed parts. Then this is coming here to stitch the placket together with the shirt. We are stitching 3 things together: the bigger placket, the smaller placket, and the shirt itself. Here I will make sure I have a straight line. It's very important. I must have a straight line. So I will take my measuring tape and measure whatever I have from here to this point. So this is the finishing part of the placket. If the finishing is not neat, forget it. The placket will not look nice. So I've marked the route of my stitches, so I'll be going through this line. So I'm adjusting the needle positioning. So after this point, I will lift my presser foot up and turn the shirt again. I'm putting it down now. So at this point, the stitches is coming downward. Now let me explain this. The down part of your placket can be any shape of your choice, but as for me, I want it straight. So I want it straight. That was why I have it like so. But if you don't want it straight, you can give it a triangular shape. If you want a triangular shape, all you need is open this up and cut out the allowance you have inside so that this area will not be bulky. So from the center of the placket, give it a fold once. Hold it at that point again and give it a fold the second time. So this is a triangular shape in case you don't want it straight. And when you are folding, you will make sure the 2 sides are equal. The 2 sides has to be equal. And your stitch goes thus. You come down. When you get to this point, raise up your presser foot, turn it, come here. When you get to this point, you go this way. When you get to this point, you come up and stop here. So that is that about that. But as for me, I will be folding it straight. So then I will position it to the center. Position it to the center. So I can continue stitching downward. So when I get to that point, I'm lifting up my presser foot. And I'm adjusting the shirt so that there is no squeezed area or squeezed part. Then the same allowance I folded inward, I have to be sure is not showing outside. So when we are making male outfits, your detailing is very important. Your finishing is also important. I have to let this go inward, or else it can mess up the whole placket. I'm flipping over again. So this time I'm bringing it upward, and I will stop here. So this is where I'm stopping. So at this point, I will lift my presser foot up again, and I will lock this area the second time. So guys, this is the finished look of the placket. As you can see, it's looking flat and neat. This is the right side, and this is the inside of the placket. You can see both the inside and the outside are neat. So guys, we've come to the end of this tutorial, how to draft, cut and sew a shirt placket in this video series. In my next video, we will continue this series on how to draft, cut and sew a shirt sleeve with cuff. Make sure you subscribe to my channel so that you get notified when I drop the video. Till we meet next time, when I will be dishing out another valuable content from my wealth of knowledge. Always remember, there is no elevator to success. You have to take the stairs.